A weird shake to it. Well, first of all, the valve covers, if you see that, that means that it's leaking oil. It's missing a bolt, and this is gonna be the first thing that I do, that I show you guys how to do it. It's very simple. All you have to do is just take off all the screws, take off the clips, take off the top, take off the hose that's here, take off the other hose. Sometimes they break, sometimes they don't because of the age and they get dried. And then the screws that are all around here, they all have to come off. The top comes off. We're gonna do the valve covers, which are these plastic things that are here. What's happening is that they've been worn out so much by the heat that you're getting oil onto the coils, and it'll eventually wear these rubber boots out, and it'll cause your car to have more problems. So right now, once you wash the valve covers with gasoline, the good thing about gasoline is that it dries by itself, so you don't need anything really to dry it. You want to wash these seams right here. This is what you really want to brush off to make sure that you're clean. Once you do that, you can wash the outside. I mean, I know it still looks a bit dirty, or looks gray and doesn't look good, but the thing is that with these valve covers from Toyota, you see here, they're casting. They use different metals. They went really cheap on this, and what happens is that they start rotting away. They start breaking apart. So it's very common. They're gonna look ugly, but they're still functionable. That you're only gonna do the valve covers on your car. If it's a 4-cylinder, it should be like this. If it's a V6, it'll be a little bit more difficult depending on the model of the car. And all you want to do is grab a rag and clean away all the areas. And if you have like little gasket here, then you have to get a little blade and scrape it off. Okay, you don't want to scrape off like this one here. It's fine. Some of them have curves, like a moon-shaped curve, and those gaskets, if you do scrape it off, you have to add new silicone to it. So that's basically where we're at. And if you can see, like, you see how the gray stuff that's here, that's from the valve covers, because when they made these valve covers, they made them very cheap to save a lot of money, and they tend to come apart over time. So in that case, you can either just go to the junkyard, get a new valve cover, or just buy a brand new from the dealer. Now this is a simple job. Now you see these little marks here. With those marks, I can tell that this engine has been replaced before, because factory from the dealer will never have these marks. These marks are coming from the junkyard. So this engine has been replaced. Okay, so now if you notice, the gasket that was right over here is gone now. I scraped it off. Just when you use the blade, be careful that you don't dig in too deep. Just lightly scrape it. You don't want to go too far. You see, like, see this here, this is a seam. When you take off the gasket filler here, you have to be careful because sometimes it might leak. So when you scrape it, make sure that try to avoid spots like this or like that, because that over there, you see it's actually covering the seam already. So the next step for me, at least, I already wiped down where the valve covers are going to rest, which is this area here and here. So now you do not want to put any type of gas in here. You just want to wipe it down, maybe spray it around the edges, brake cleaner, but you don't want to shoot inside there. Try to avoid it as much as you can, but if a little bit sprays in, there's nothing wrong. It's not going to affect it. So I just placed the new valve cover into place. The way that you know the difference from it is, you see this edge is always going to go inside, and this edge is going to go always on the bottom. Okay, it's going to go on the bottom. So now I just realized that I'm going to have to use some silicone, because the valve covers came damaged here and a spot over here. And then you see how this goes into flow. This one's actually pretty easy. Some of them have to go and pressed in. With this is a gasket also. You get new gaskets with it. On most vehicles you do. Sometimes it's every single last one of the bolts in the valve covers, On this one's just 2. So what you're gonna do is that you're gonna get some cutters and cut them out, because they're made out of, it's part metal on the top and part rubber on the bottom, and it's very difficult to just pop them out most of the time. So you're just gonna cut it at an angle and you should be good to go. Once you cut them at the angle, you could just twist it off, break them loose, and the new ones will just slide back, will slide in. Remember that the metal has to face upwards, the rubber's gonna face down. Alright, so as you can see, I put a little bit of gasket sealer there. I use this product called Right Stuff. This stuff is really good. The shop that I worked for 5 years, in a muscle car shop, they use that a lot. And although it's a very quick activating sealant, it's really good, really good. And so then you see where I scraped it off, where the little crack was at, the line that opens up, mates, actually, I put a little bit there, a little dab there, and I put there because the gasket was you know, cut on both sides from there. Unfortunately, I got this from Amazon and it was super cheap, and I ordered it in advance before now, so I just don't want to deal with returning it and this and that. So now we're just gonna place it. You see how I move the cables out of the way? So now I'm gonna put the phone back down and I'll be back. Okay, so once you put the valve cover, you have to focus that the seal around the gasket, the seal that you just put on, that it doesn't pop out. Sometimes it does, so you have to be very careful with that. All right, so as you're placing it, maybe the wire may touch, a hose may touch, and it may knock it off. So be careful, be agile, and make sure you look before sealing them down completely that your valve cover hasn't come out. If it does, you're gonna have a major oil leak and you're gonna have to buy a new valve cover. Now, you tighten in the bolts, you want to do it crisscross, across like that, crisscross, and then in the center, crisscross. You can find that easily in Google. You can also do it by torque, which is by the pressure that it needs from factory. I mean, if you're a mechanic, I mean, you know, you have the experience, or if you're hands-on, you know, you'll know eventually when to stop. Of course, the same thing, you know, this is very brittle here, you see it? So with something like that, you can't over tighten this because it'll break, it'll crack this, and then you'll have a leak. And you know, as for these, you know, I wiped them down. They're still brownish because of the oil, but the brownish is not going to affect it. It's just, you know, that at one point or another there was oil and, you know, they got brown, you know. And so then it's basically just placing everything back together. Now for me, since I'm an experienced, you know, automotive technician, I know exactly where things go at. But sometimes it's easier if you just take pictures. You know, if it's your first time and you're doing it hands-on, and you know, you kind of know you're a forgetful person, you know, it doesn't hurt, and it's not embarrassing to, you know, take a picture of everything you're taking off before you take it off, and then you know, you look through the pictures and you're gonna know exactly how they go in position. But that's it. This is how you do valve covers, and